We're going to talk about persistence today, and we're going to basically dive in. What are the things, what are the secret ingredients? What are the secret elements that that allow us to take our life to the next level? What are the secret ingredients that let us, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And a lot of times we're bouncing from different idea to idea, and we're like, okay, why is it that I'm not able to do this? Why is it that I'm not able to step my game to the next level? Why is it that I'm having difficulties here, right? And we're going to talk about a couple people. We're going to talk about Bill Gates. What is it something that differentiates someone that's Bill Gates versus John Gates? What is something that differentiates someone that was cut from a high school basketball team and never steps foot on the court again? Now, for me personally, I've had to experience a lot of persistence on my way. And going through my life. As I created my small chain of jewelry stores that I own, I had a lot of times where I was like, damn, man, is this worth it? I'm failing here. I'm losing a bunch of money here. What is it that's going to take for me to keep it going? What is it going to take for me to actually take this to the next level? What is it going to take for me to actually have my employees stay with me? I was hiring employees that wouldn't want to stay because we didn't have that much business at first. They wouldn't want to stay because they didn't believe. I don't know if they didn't believe in me. They didn't believe in whatever was going on. There was a lot of bad things that were going on at the beginning, right? As you're a startup and you're trying to figure things out, trying to figure out how can I get people to come into my store and all this stuff. And what I found was a lot of times I was bouncing from one thing, from one idea to the next. My wife would be saying, Edwin, you need to focus. Edwin, you need to do this. I was like, no, I'm like a type of person. I would like to do this, do that, right? And then finally I was like, after I see that we're losing a bunch of money, I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe we do need to focus, right? And so from there on, I learned that, bam, a singleness of focus, a singleness of a thought, just focusing, zeroing in on one idea, zeroing in on one thing is going to make a huge difference. And then from there, things took off, right? I eliminated a lot of distractions. I eliminated a lot of things that were distracting me in my life. And that had that all had to do with that. But along the way, of course, I had to be persistent. I have to step up and say, you know what? I'm going to do this. I know that if I make it happen, if I keep going, there's going to be great, there's going to be sparkles of greatness passing this level, right? There's going to be sparkles of good that are going to be on the other side. And, so that applies to all of us, right? And whenever we've gone through, we always hear post-traumatic PTSD, right? We hear about that. What I like to comment and I say, like, you know what? There's also post-traumatic growth. From these events, we're always able to grow. From these events, we're always able to step our game to the next level. We hear people that go through these traumas, and what ends up happening? Their emotional fitness, their emotional skills, their strategies that they didn't have before come to light. Eventually, anybody that's gone through that and that has gotten over that has the resilience, has that, the emotional fitness that they're able to get past. I went through, like a lot of us, we go through, most of us, I would say 98% of us go through a trauma when we break up through a divorce or through a breakup, or it could be some other thing in our life, a death in our immediate family. And what's the difference maker, in those moments? What's the difference maker between someone that stays in that for 20 years, hopefully not, right? But someone that stays in that for a long time, or doesn't take, or lets that be a story that they tell ourselves. Because a lot of us have that happen to us, right? We have a trauma happen to us in our life, and then we say, wow, because of this thing that happened when I was growing up, I'm not able to do this, or because of, this specific event. So for me, I experienced a lot of depression one time that I had a breakup in my life. And how is it that I was able to even bounce back from that? I stayed in that depression, for a year and a half. And I was just sad, trying to drink my way out of it, going out with my friends, doing this, doing that. And eventually what I decided to do, and this is something that is a key ingredient for all of us in persistence, is being able to shape the meaning of whatever happens, being able to say, okay, this event is the most important event in my life because of this. From this moment on, this is going to be the difference maker for me in my life. And I remember this relationship being something that I couldn't get over. And I was like, I'm never going to get over this. I'm never going to get over this. And so you keep saying something to yourself, you're never going to get over it, right? You have to kind of bam, finally you ask yourself, what can I learn from this? what can this moment mean for me going forward in my life? How can I change things moving forward so that, you know what, from now on, this will be a defining moment for me. And so what I've learned that by studying a lot of these people, studying a lot of these great people, you know, look at, you know, someone like Walt Disney, you look at someone like Colonel Sanders from KFC, you look at someone like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, all these big names, people that are down in the history books. And a lot of times they have this secret ingredient that they don't tell you guys. They don't say it explicitly. They say it indirectly. And in reality, what ends up happening is a lot of times we don't know about the failures along the way. We don't know, you know, all we know is that Michael Jordan we know, everybody knows Michael Jordan's story, but a lot of times people only know his 6 NBA championships. You don't know that he got cut out, you know, that he got cut from his high school basketball team. People don't know that he was practicing every single day with his older brothers that were better than him, because his goal was to be better than them, right? And his brothers were, you know, were great players. And people don't know the stories behind that. People don't know of Tom, you know, people don't know of Henry Ford's story. He started 5 companies before he had a success in his Henry Ford company, right? You know, we look at people like Honda, you know, the Honda cars are going all around. We don't know the stories, you know, what he applied to go to Toyota, to work at Toyota, and he got turned down. So all these people, before they have any types of success, they have a lot of failures along the way. They have a lot of things along the way. But anyway, the secret ingredient that people don't directly say, they don't directly state it, is eventually along the way, when these people have the failures, they decide to ask a better question than, let's say, someone that doesn't. You know, how you look at someone like, let's say, Oprah Winfrey, or you look at anybody that's had traumas. What's the difference between someone that has a lot of traumas that happen in their childhood and they stick with that, and versus someone like Oprah Winfrey that has a lot of traumas, that has a lot of things and messed up things that happened to her when she was growing up, and that she becomes the person that she is today. And along the way, what they decided to do is those traumatic moments in their life, they said, you know what? This moment is happening to me because of this empowering reason. Because of this moment, I'll never let this ever happen again. Because of this moment, I'm gonna be bigger than whatever. I'll be bigger than this purpose that I've said I believe that I've been up to this moment. So it's about taking that moment. You know, so for myself, so I went through this trauma with my relationship. I eventually ended up getting over a lot of that stuff, and I got into the relationship that I have now with my wife. And going, you know, we're 3 months into this relationship, and all of a sudden, you know, we're pregnant. You know, 3-4 months we meet each other, we're pregnant, and we're like, damn. You know, I'm thinking like, you know, what, you know, I'm still young. I think I was only like, I don't know, 24 or something like. I don't know. I was still young at the time, and I was like, you know, what does this mean? How is it going to affect my life? How is it going to affect my success? How is it going to affect my life? You know, I'm kind of like, you know, still in like enjoying my life, trying to, you know, even when now we're together at the beginning, we're still going out and stuff. And I'm just thinking like, you know, thinking for myself, like, well, how is this going to affect me? And so we went through this thing where we're like, okay, you know what, you know, should we even have this kid? You know, we went to have that conversation, and it was it was a crazy decision. We were deciding whether, you know, we were going to have this child, and we're like, you know, we're in that stage, and we're just thinking back and forth. And then finally I was like, you know, we're not going to have this child. Fast forward, like 2 weeks, we're like, no, we were about to go through with it. Fast forward. We ended up deciding we were going to have the child. And then we fast forward to the delivery date. We get to the delivery date, and I'm working. I was coming home from New York, and then she tells me where I have this kid, and then we're like, you know, you need to get over here. I rush my way back. I get to the delivery room maybe like around 1 or 2. The delivery comes at 2. Baby comes out, and all of a sudden the doctors are telling me that he has to go into the ICU. He has to go into the intensive care unit for little babies. You know, he had this little trouble that he had, and he came out like all, you know, wasn't able to breathe as soon as he came out. As soon as this moment happened, you know, I got on my knees and I prayed to God. I was like, please, God, I promise you, I know I said I was going to have this kid, and I promise you that I will never, ever, ever, lose faith in this kid. I will give my all. I will become better and bigger than I've ever been meant to be. I will do whatever it takes to step up and take my life to the next level. I stayed by my son's, bedside for 7 days straight. And it was like 2 weeks, honestly, but like 7 days straight. And then until they told us, he's going to, he's good. Everything is good. And he's able to live, we're going to have some checkers, but he's going to be good, And so for this moment, that moment, it was a defining moment for me. I was like, I'll never settle for less than I believe it. If I don't believe in myself, I'm going to get someone that believes in myself. If I don't believe in myself, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it happen because I deserve it. My son deserves it. My wife deserves it. And so I made it happen. So a little shift in the meaning in that moment made it happen, right? And so I bring this moment up to you guys because a lot of times we're the ones who get to choose. We're the ones who get to choose what I'm going to take in. We're the ones who get to define the history. We're the ones who get to define the direction that we're going to head in, right? We want to make sure that we define these moments, right? We take into account these moments and say, you know what? I'm going to make it happen regardless of whatever it takes, right? So anyway, I'm gonna read a statement. I'm gonna read a passage from the book, and so something I think that's important that it talks about in this book a lot. And so it says this. It says at the beginning. It says, okay. So the author basically what it says at the beginning is says the author is checking you up at this point. Because of lack of persistence, one of the major causes of failure. Moreover, experience with thousands of people have proved that lack of persistence is a weakness in common in the majority of men. It is a weakness which may be overcome by effort. The ease with which lack of persistence may be conquered will depend partly on the intensity of one's desire. So the intensity of one's desire, how do we even create an intensity of desire? How do we even create it? How is it that one person can be lacking desire and another person can be, full of desire, like taking charge, or what makes someone that's in between, right? And so I guess I'm gonna ask you guys before I cover it, if there's any, if there is like, what's one way that we can increase the desire that we have in our life, the intensity for anything. And it doesn't have to just be for riches. It can be riches. What is one way that we can increase our desire for riches? What is one way that we can increase our desire for, having that gratitude, experiencing that passion, for that happiness? So I'm going to open up the calls for anybody that would want to participate. If there's anybody that would like to chime in on here or just add a comment, if you have background noise, just please mute yourself. So if there's anybody that would like to participate, how do we create that desire within ourselves? How does it that we can intensify the desire that we want in our life? So I'm going to mute everybody here. If you have a question, if you have background noise, please mute yourself. Okay, here. So the question is, how do we intensify our desire? We're going to go over it in a little bit, but I guess I want to get your any comments. How do you intensify the desire? If you have a desire for something, how do we intensify that even more? Okay, awesome. Grant said we need to develop those daily habits so we can keep focused on the desire. Exactly. Daily habits is an important thing. It's covered in the book too, and one of the steps that we need to do to intensify the desire, and the persistence. Habits, daily habits for sure is one definite thing. Is there any other thing that anybody would like to add? You just jump in, by the way.
Good morning, Edwin.
Hey, good morning, Tim. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for putting this on this morning. To build my desires, it's got to be mine. It's got to be something that I want, not something that my parents expected me to become or my family situation demands that I become. A lot of that is in the business of life, but if I don't have a passion for what I'm doing, if I don't honestly believe that I'm capable and it's something that's seated deep inside myself, that only I am going to be able to fuse together some unique abilities with my passion, that's going to build my desire. I can try to lie to myself and say, yes, I have a desire to do this, a desire to do that, but it turns out it's somebody else's goals a lot of times. So I have to work on what's my passion. Then I have to work on willpower. And there's scientific ways to try and build my resolve and my willpower. And a lot of it has to do with taking care of me, my fitness, my nutrition, and my well-being. Thanks.
Awesome. And what would you say, something like, let's say if it has to be your passion, it can't be someone else's passion. What do you do to build that passion? What have you done before? Tim, I had muted you, but I was asking. So if you want, you said to build your power, you focus on your health and stuff. But what about to build your passion? What specific things do you do now to build your passion and make sure you're passionate about it?
Well, some things I just have to do when I don't want to do it. You know, I work out to build my muscles a little bit, nothing extreme. I don't do 2 or 3 hours a day by any means. And then every week or 2 weeks, I'll take one day off and I'll do nothing. And when I got up this morning, I thought, boy, I took off yesterday. It'd be awfully easy not to do anything today. I thought, no exercise whatsoever. I'm not going to touch those weights again. And then I thought, no, that's a habit. I get into that. Then you take 3 days off, and then pretty soon, 4 or 5 days, you're back to where you started. So a lot of times you just have to stick to it. The persistence and say, no, I made this goal. I want to build my physical fitness, and it means I do this amount per day, and taking a day off to rest my muscles, that's a good thing. But now I need to get back at it. So I review what my goals are. And a lot of times you look at the goals written down in black and white, and you just don't have the emotion there behind it. So then you have to go back and say, well, why do I want to do this? I have to have a really big why, whether it's for myself or whether it's for the people around me. I've got to review that why on a regular basis. And in the end, if it's only for me, it's only going to have so much oomph and so much push behind it. There's got to be some other people involved, whether it's my kids or the community at large, or because I've come to a genuine belief that me building this skill set or this mindset, I have a unique contribution to make to the world that the world's going to benefit from. So the bigger part of the whys that really have some power behind them to keep me going is trying to do it for somebody else to some extent, but it's also got to be for me as well.
Right. Thanks. Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Tim. And yeah, you touched on some good points, and I just wanted to make sure, what it is that you do, because a lot of times when you have success in a specific area, it has to do with a lot of different ingredients. It has to do with a lot of foundational things. We're all individual people, Tim was saying, he has his own passions. He's going to do, what's passionate to him. He's going to go after the goals that he wants, not his parents, not your peers. A lot of times you surround yourself with people that, are going in the same directions. You might have similar goals to your peers, but we're all a unique person. We all have a unique DNA. We all have a unique why. The why that I have is different from Tim's, from Beth, from anybody that's, that's going after something. Their why is going to be the big thing. And, like he said, sometimes you look at your goals and you could be like, okay, maybe I don't want to do this today. Maybe I could work out tomorrow. Right. And it's not wrong with taking a break. Right. It's not wrong with taking a break, but we want to be consistent. We want to make sure we have that system down where we say, bam, this is what I need to do. Bam, this is the area that I need to go to. This is the area that I need to surround. These are the people that I need to surround myself. These are the questions I need to ask myself on a daily basis. And having said that, it's important. Tony Robbins has a thing called primary question. What's the primary question that you ask yourself on a daily basis? I like to have a set of questions that I ask myself on a daily basis. What in terms of what I want to do, I make sure I focus in first. What's the result that I want? Then the why. The why is so important, right? And finally, what do I need to do versus asking what do I need to do, the why, and then what's my result, right? We want to zero in like a bullseye. Bam, what do I want? So anyway, having that question guide you, having that after you know what it is that you want, you look at the why. You look at the thing that's going to power that vision that you want. So if one thing I would say that's very important to do right off the bat, look at your why for any goals. If it's a health goal, brighten that why up. Look at the why. Why is it that you want to have that? what's going to come into your life because of that why? Who's going to come into your life because of that why? How is your life is going to be so much better because of that? How are your kids, if you have kids, how are your kids going to be better because of that why? How are those around you going to benefit? How is the community going to benefit? How is your significant other going to benefit from that why? And look at it, look at all the things and build and build and build and build and build this why up until it's like there's nothing that can stop that why, because it's so, it's there, right? And just have that why there. And then also another thing, well, if you take a couple steps back before that, before you get to what moves you to that why, you want to look at and get leverage on yourself first, right? We want to ask ourselves, what are the things if I don't do this, what will happen, and what bad will happen in my life, right? What's going to be bad for me in my life? Who's not going to be in my life if I don't follow through with this? Who's not, who am I going to let down? Who's no longer in my life? And then you can fast forward this pain a year into the future. Say, what's happened in a year because I didn't follow through with this? Who have I let down? What do my kids say? What do my friends say? What do my peers say? How does my body look in a year because I haven't followed through with this thing? And then you can even intensify this pain 5 years into the future. What happens in 5 years? Who's not in your life anymore? Who's left? Who's gone to? Who's moved on from you? Who's forgotten about you? And intensify this pain. You can even take another 10 years into the future. And I do this for things that I find myself procrastinating on and not wanting to continue, and just do it. And then after you have that pain, then you go back to the positive questions, right? And then you reinforce, okay, what am I going to get from this? What am I going to get from this? What am I going to get from this? Or who am I going to positively impact? And bam, all of a sudden you're freaking motivated to do something that just, a couple days ago you weren't wanting to do. In this exercise, you don't have to do this every day, but if you do it powerfully enough for one day, this is going to take you for a long period of time. And I do this with things that I procrastinate on. I do this and it works. And bam, I'm wow, sometimes I'll think about, for example, I was mentioning the three things, the 3 steps I take to do something, right? I say what I want, right? What I want, why I want it. And then finally, what do I need to do, right? And then sometimes after doing those 3 things, I have the game plan and I go after and I do it. But there's sometimes, I bet you guys have had this, where you know what you want, you know why you want it, and then you have the game plan, but then you don't go out and do it. And why the hell does that happen? And then so when that happens, I add this leverage step, right? I add this, I'm okay, I need to do this my game plan, and then I don't follow through with it. I'm damn, what the hell happened there, right? I did that whole question stuff and it didn't even get me my result. But then what I add in my what do I need to do? I add in there, I'm okay, obviously I'm not following through with this. I need to get even more leverage on myself. That's where I go through the pain process and then the pleasure. And I I'll look a year, 5 years, 10 years. And then that gets me to do it instantly. And all of a sudden, something that I've been procrastinating for months, bam, happens in a moment. That's, and that's one, awesome technique that we can use, for things. It's helped me, it's helped me for things I have to do in my business that I have to do. It's helped me for things that I've been procrastinating for months. And, so that's one little technique we could do. And then like you said, like Tim mentioned, we want to review our goals, right? We want to review our goals. There's a lot of different ways to review our goals. Specifically, you could have, or let's say more, you can have a vision board, right? You can always see every day. You can have a little vision board. And you're bam, I like to have a couple images that are things that I want to achieve on my wall. I don't have a specific vision board, but I do have images on my wall, on my office, and in my car, and then in my, in my room, of things that I want to achieve. If you want to have, so you can have a vision board. That's one thing that you guys can have. And one thing, I'm gonna mention this. One thing that I do that I do for me in order to focus on what I want, I always keep. This is something that a couple of my mentors have mentioned. Even Jim Rohn has talked about this. Tony Robbins. And one of these techniques is just, I had mentioned this before, is having a little money clip, right? Having a little wallet with a money clip and just having, a couple of $100 bills on there, $300 bills on there, and just keeping it on there. Every time you open your wallet, you see $300 bills and you're dang, you're never going to say, I don't have the money to do this. And I don't go spending this, but I do have it on me. I never say I don't have any money on me, right? And another thing I do, I keep a picture of my wife and my kids on my wallet. So every time I open my wallet, I see my wife on there. I see my kids there, and I'm drawn to that, And then another thing I could do to take it to the next level, another thing that a lot of people recommend is just writing on the back of it, like, writing on the back of it what it is, how you want that relationship. So you kind of like have it, as you write it out. And then another thing I have on my wallet is a check, a goal that I have to what I want to earn a monthly. So I have it on here, right? I have this goal on here and I have it written. And so I have this, and so like someone else that used this technique is Jim Carrey. He wrote on a check for $5 million, and he achieved this. He had this check and he had it for 5 years, and he freaking achieved it once he made, I think it was a Dumb and Dumber movie, and bam, he received that $5 million check. I think it was $5 to $20 million. I can't remember exact amount, but he had that happen. So these are those little techniques. And then and then reviewing your goals, right? So this one way I review my goal every day. I see my check. I see my office. I have it, and then I have a technique that they talk about in the book, Daily Major Purpose Statement. I say that every day. And but then you could do, like, if you could just have them written now, like Tim says, you could look at them. But I would add one step, right, Tim? I would say maybe, because he said like it's good to look at the goals, right? But sometimes what do we forget about? The why, right? Because like we can have 9 goals listed out, right? But then like we're like, bam, okay, that's nice. I don't want to do this today, right? But then we want to, let's say if we go through let's say you ask the 3 questions. What do I want? What do I want? Why do I want it? Okay, how do I get it, right? Or what do I need to do? And then if that still doesn't get you going for it, and then you go through the leverage step, you ask the pain questions. What's going to be, what's bad going to happen in your life if you don't get it? And then what are the goods that are going to happen if you get it? You go through that process and you finally get all these whys. You could put that why in a paper, you put that why, your goal there, and then put all the why, all the reasons why you want to get this. And so when you go to look at your goal, you're like, okay, and you're like, damn, like that's nice. Wow. Like I want it. You're drawn to it versus just looking at a goal and there's nothing, no juice driving us behind it. Right. So that right then, that alone is going to get you to, exponentially take whatever goal that you have and just freaking drive through it, right? And that alone is going to get you to have that self-reliance, get that habit going, right? Because it could be, we can get busy. Like let's say if working out, for example, you can get busy. If you go on a trip, like for example, I went on a trip to Los Angeles. I went on a trip to Los Angeles last year, and I mean not last year, like what's it called? I went on a trip last year to what am I talking about? Last weekend to Los Angeles, and so like I got held back. I got backed up in some work, and so it was easy for me to say, you know what, I'm not going to work out, on these specific days, and so, but I made sure to work out when I was over there, and I made it happen somehow, right? So it's important to stay committed to that. So let me see here. I'll open the call up to Michelle. I think let me see here. I think you were going to add on here onto this topic right here. Let me see here. Okay, Michelle, I think you had mentioned something. I was going to open up the line. I think you wanted to add on to this topic of what is it that gets you to, what is it that gets you to keep that passion going? Or what is it that gets you to, to intensify the desire? Because, it can be sometimes that intensifying the desire that we want for anything in our life, it can be elusive. Sometimes we know what we want. So Michelle, if you have something you want to add, I just unmuted your line right now.
I do. Thank you, Edwin. I really enjoy what you were saying about building the why. I had not thought about it in such a manner. Persistence. That's why we're here today. That's why we showed up today. I'm sure we all have plenty of things to do. Today's my son's birthday party, so I really should be cleaning, but this is fun. Anyhow, I was going to touch a little bit on how self-control is so related to persistence. It's the ultimate freedom you can have. Once you gain this mastery over self, you will become more at peace with yourself. It's not easy to gain, but so worth it. There is a lot of emotional work, I think you had touched on that, Edwin, that you will need to work through. Some issues you may need to face that you may have been putting off. I would suggest that you start looking for answers within. You were born a glorious person worthy of love and success. To become self-actualized, to have this persistence, you must have this control. This should be your mission, for once you gain this mastery over self, your relationships, your finances, your body will all improve if you're willing to put in the work. You have to be willing to do the work. You have to be willing to keep going at all costs and ask for help if you need it.
Awesome, thank you. What would you say, Michelle, has been your experiences like looking for answers within? What do you think, like, because that's important. So what would you say, like, in your experience, what would you say, or why would someone want to look for answers within, and what do you think your experience has been with looking for answers within yourself?
It really just comes down to, you are the only person that knows what you want in life. You have to really get to know yourself. It's your psychology. It's what's going on in your mind that really drives your life. It begins within. You have the ability to control your thoughts, and that's why we start by looking within, is to see what's wrong, what are we hurting from, and how can we address that and rise above it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, see, that's an important thing, and an important thing is to always look at things. Thanks, Michelle. And an important thing I'll point out there is looking within, and always asking, making sure to ask the new questions, asking the right questions, right? We get asked, what's going on here, right? And then we want to also be careful. We want to watch out the language we use, right? What if I say, what's wrong with me, right? that word can take us to a bad direction, right? But I could say, why is it that people don't like me, or something like that, right? If I ask myself a bad question, I'm always going to get a bad answer, right? So no, that's important though. Thanks for pointing out, Michelle. We always want to make sure that we ask ourselves, and when we do ask ourselves, we look within, we look inside of ourselves, but we want to look with the positive questions. We want to look inside with us with positive intent, right? Because when we ask ourselves bad questions, right, we're not looking to like tear ourselves down, but it happens, right? If we ask ourselves, where am I hurting? I mean, that's good, right? But we also want to make sure we also ask, right, the best questions when we go inside of us. We want to make sure we ask. So that's good that Michelle points it out, because a lot of times it's just the stories we've been telling ourselves. So we can look for that. We can search for that. We can say, what's the truth? What's the reality? What's the story that the real truth behind all this, right? What's the real truth behind why I'm not doing this? And then you can ask those questions to discover yourself, what's going on. But at the end of the day, right, we want to make sure after we find that, we resolve it, right? We want to make sure that we blow past that story, because a lot of times we can get caught up in that story, right? Because let's say someone like Oprah Winfrey, for example, if she say, why did this happen to me? Why is it that I've been hurting all this time? Oh, and this happened to me. And then after you discover that, that's when the meaning of what you attach to something is very important, right? Because when we just let it sit there, we find the hurt, we find what's wrong with us. We want to, exactly, Michelle, we want to stop playing the victim, right? We have to, bam, what is it that I'm going to do now? Because of this, what is this going to mean? How is this going to empower me to go to the next level? How am I going to empower others to go to the next level? How am I going to inspire others to go to the next level because of this thing that happened to me? How am I going to inspire others through my story? Because I know with my story, people are going to resonate, because I didn't stay there, right? So all these, another thing I like to do with these things, I'm mentioning a lot of these questions, right? I like to have a list of questions. I'm always, when I hear someone say a good question, I write it down. So I have in my I have an iPhone, right? For those who have a smartphone, or if you were going to write it down in a notepad, a lot of people I have my planners is in handwritten, but I keep my notes in my phone. And so in my phone, I have here, questions, master list. And here, all I have here, and I have quality questions, master list. I have 2 documents. But basically, what I like to do in these little things here, I like to, whenever I hear a great question, I like to write it down. I'm like, man, that's a great question. I ask myself, I'm gonna come back to that whenever I'm solving a problem. And eventually, you get to the point where you memorize these questions, and you get to a point, you're like, and you catch yourself asking yourself a bad question. You say, okay, bam, what's a better question? Or you can go to that list and say, let me go through this list and see what's a great question I can ask myself. For example, if there's something that you're hesitating on doing, you can say, just as a simple question. I'll give you guys a few questions. I'm trying to find it here, because I memorized it. Okay, RPM questions, master list. Okay, questions, master list. Let me look for it, because I just created a new document. But let me see here. Okay, action. Okay, anyway, so here's a couple questions, for example. This is a couple questions that I use for driving that pain. I know we're asking that, but like I have a couple of documents for questions. So one is this kind of a simple questions that I was asking. For example, this is for getting me to experience that pain. I ask these series of questions if I want to freaking make me. So you can think of simple questions like I mentioned. I said, who am I hurting? Who's not going to be in my life? Who's going to be this? Who am I? This. But these are specific questions I have written down. Are these? Look, what's this decision? Let's say there's something that I'm not able to do, and I say this. What's it costing me to not have financial abundance or X? You can change it. What's it costing me right now? You can say, what's it costing me to not work out, for example? And then you can say, what's it costing me right now? What are the things that I really want to be, share, do, create, or give, or make that I cannot do because of whatever it is, if it's health, because of financial abundance, because of this relationship, or whatever it is. So what's it costing me not to have financial abundance? What's it costing me right now? What are the things I really want to be, share, do, create, or give? So that's one set of questions I'm gonna tell you guys, and that's one little thing you guys can do for that. I can't find the document in my phone because I had a new title, but I'll go to the new one I have here. Let me see here. Questions, master list. Frequently. Okay, quality questions. RPM questions. RPM questions, master list. I believe this is. Okay, no. Well, I can't find it, guys. So I'm gonna come back to that because I wasn't gonna present this to you guys. But let me see. Questions. Master list. Quality questions. Master list. Or okay, here it is. I called it Arsenal Quality Arsenal Questions Master List. It was like low there. So look, so these are. I'm just gonna mention some of these. For example, whenever I want to experience gratefulness, these are some questions that I ask myself. I say this. Okay, gratefulness questions. What am I grateful for right now? What am I proud of in my life? What could I be grateful for? What is it that I'm so lucky for in my life? And so these 4 questions, the first one might not get you, okay, what am I grateful for now? You might say nothing, right? But then you might say, okay, what am I proud of in my life? And that's another question, right? A different question is going to give you a different answer. That might give you a different answer. And then if I say, okay, maybe I'm not feeling like I'm grateful for something, but then you add this, what could I be grateful for? And then you ask, okay, what could I be grateful? Then that opens you up a little bit more. Okay, fine. You might be denying the first questions, but then you say, what could I be grateful for? And then your mind says, okay, fine, maybe I could be grateful for this. And then just because you say you could, you're focusing on it, right? And then you allow that gratitude to step in you, right? And then finally you say, what is it that I'm so lucky for in my life? So all these little things stack on top of each other, to take you to the next level. And then I'll ask you, find another question here. And then I'll ask you this, for example. Finally, I'll say, okay. And then finally, the simple question I ask whenever I want to enjoy something and I find myself not enjoying it, I say this. I say, how can I insert whatever activity you're not enjoying and enjoy the process? So you can say, that's a simple version. How can I, work out and enjoy the process? Or you could say, how can I do this job, do this specific project and enjoy the process? So a little simple question, right? But you can make this question better. But this is a question I have written down because I heard it once and I was like, damn, that's a good question. How can I do this and enjoy the process, right? Because sometimes we might say, what do I need to do that project? Or what is it? But you find yourself procrastinating. You say, how can I enjoy it? So that anyway, not to keep on the questions, but that's a couple things. And you can keep these questions writing down if you have a smartphone, you can, once you have a couple questions, you can categorize them. Okay, these are gratefulness questions. These are questions that I can ask myself that when I want to inspire somebody. These are questions and so these questions can guide your life, right? Because we know a quality question is going to get us a quality answer, right? So anyway, so thanks for the question. And then, so anyway, guys, we want to make sure we review these goals, right? And review these goals with the why. We want to make sure the why is there. The why is what's going to drive us. The why is what's going to allow us to make it happen. And if you like, and like I said, you know, in the book, it recommends daily major purpose statement. I will highly recommend, if like you guys, we all need to make sure we know at least one, you know, we have a primary goal that we're going after. It could be financial, health, whatever it is. We need to have it. We have to be clear. You know, if someone asks you, you know, what is it that you're going after? You have that clarity inside, and that clarity comes from having that why, right? Because we can make a goal, right? You talk about people that make the New Year's resolutions by, like, I think it's like the 15th day. I think, and 80 or 90% of the people already stopped doing the New Year's resolutions. And the thing is that because we've missed out on that why. We just make a quick goal and we're like, hey, you know, while we're toasting up for the new year and stuff like that, and we might had a little couple drinks or something like that. We make it the new goal. We're like, hey, this year I'm going to do this, you know? And so in the spur of the moment, without a why, you know, after the people, you know, family's gone or your friends are gone, and then you're kind of by yourself, you're like, maybe, or you don't even say anything. You just forget about it, right? And it has to do because the why is not there. The leverage is not there. The why is the most powerful driving force. And then once we have that why, bam, then we can look at, okay, this is where the area I want to go in, right? So let me see here. I'm gonna open up let me see here. It says, so I think, Grant, is it okay to have two major goals at the same time? Let me just open up the line here for Mark here real quick. Let me see here. I think I saw Mark saying something, or is it? Okay, no, sorry, Grant. Okay, open it up. All right, Grant, you said, is it okay to have, what was the question? Is it okay to have two goals at the same time? I think I unmuted you. Let me see here. All right, Grant, I think you had asked, is it okay to have two major goals at the same time?
Hey, yeah, that was the question.
Oh, okay. And what do you think? Do you think it's okay to have two major goals at the same time?
Yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah, it really all depends on your daily major purpose statement, and I guess what you want to revolve it around.
Okay, exactly. Okay, definitely. And for example, what would be like two major goals that you wanted to have, for example?
Like I would say, for example, you know, my first one would be like financial stability, just kind of expanding in all areas for that. And then the other side would be kind of for my own, you know, business or creative goals.
Okay. And one question, would the business creative goals be tied to the financial goals as well?
Well, the creative side, yeah, it might be a bit different. So I just wasn't sure, like, you know, which one to focus on more, or to equally put them in there.
For example, like the creative side, does that have to do with the financial too, or is that like would that kind of be kind of like a passion that's not related to the finances?
Right. Yeah, it's more like a passion, but eventually might be tied into the finances. But yeah, the financial side is kind of a entirely different business aspect.
Right. Okay. And so, like, with the passion side of it, would that kind of be like at a later point in time? Kind of, would you go after it immediately, or would it be go after you achieve certain financial goals?
Yeah, that's a good question. But you know, yeah, there's something that I'm kind of working on at the same time right now, and they're kind of both tied into all of my the affirmations, everything. So yeah, it's just kind of interesting, just trying to figure out how to tie them both in there together.
Okay, but like one question: Are you working both at the same time, or is there one of the passion one is something that you want to do like later after the financial one? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying the financial side of it may come later, but it's still something that I'm working on now. It's
which one do you?
Yeah,
want?
It's kind of hard to explain.
Which one do you want to come first, the passion side or the financial one? Or both?
Maybe the financial one. But yeah, both. It's yeah, so it's kind of hard to try to put a timeline on both of those.
Why would you want the financial one to come first, or why would you want the passion one to come second, for example?
Probably the only reason for that is because I could use the financial the business aspect to fund and put some money into the creative works. But yeah, it could really go either way.
Okay. And is there a way for you to make the money from the passion that you have? Start off.
Yeah, there is, but yeah, that's definitely one that takes a little bit more time to develop. So I think, yeah, with the business side, that may be something that I may be able to achieve first.
And another question is, the financial one, is this something building on something you already have, or is it something completely new? The financial goal that you have.
Well, the financial goal that I have would be with developing, this new business, new e-commerce website that I already have experience in. But it's really kind of like developing a new company. So I do have experience in it, but it's something that's still, being developed.
And for like right now, do your finances come from a job you have, or is it from this business that you have right now, right? Or is it?
Yeah, from my job.
From your job, okay. Yeah, I mean, the thing I would look at, based on hearing what you're saying, I guess I would focus on, if you have a job. I mean, one thing I learned from my business, this is just from my experience, for example, I feel like it's good to make money, right? But it's even better to make money doing something that you love, right? And so I would say, if you already have a job, right? You have a job that you're making money in. My question would be, like, what would get you to do your? Like, I feel like if you what you say your passion, your focus on your passion is what area?
In music industry. I'm a music producer.
Okay, awesome. And so I'm just saying, like, I would say, like, if the other business is a new business, right? They're both relatively new, and one of them is your passion. I feel like the passion is what's going to keep you going. For me, for example, what keeps me going, let's say making these calls, or let's say what keeps me going learning, because I always like to learn. I've always been someone that's learned. Like when I was in 9th grade, 8th grade, I was buying courses on my parents' credit card, ebooks and stuff, because I was like trying to learn. Now, like throughout high school, we buy books and stuff. And today I go in my car and I'm freaking learning. I always try to have an audiobook going on there,
Right.
And anyway, so hearing what you're saying, I'm just curious to know, like, if they're both not making any money yet, like, why? Like, you have your job that's kind of bringing money in for you. I always just be curious about, what if I were to focus on my passion? What if that, and how would that light you up? With the extra time, because you only have a certain amount of time after your work, right? Is your time gonna, like, if you spend it on their passion, let's say if you have, how many hours you have to work on either one, for example?
Per week?
Yeah, per week.
I would say the creative one, maybe about 20 hours, around something like that. The other one, something that I'm kind of developing now. I'm kind of building up the money to invest into that business first. But yeah, I've got a whole game plan going.
Okay, exactly. So I was just saying, like, I was just looks at it like, if you have the time to spend on the passion and find a way to, and you can use the e-commerce, right? You can use kind of like them together to use
right.
build your business online and have that passion going. So I would look into, bam, there's a suggestion, right? For me personally, like I said, like I have to focus on my passion. I have to focus on the areas that most juice me up, that make me go, bam, this is what I do. This is what I love, and I can't just go after the money, right? I can't just do that. For me, when my wife told me, Edwin, we need to focus, and I said, okay, where I decided to focus, I also learned something. I was like, you know what? If I'm not passionate about it, I'm not doing it. Point blank. because I don't care if it brings me a lot of money, but I'm miserable, right? Or it brings me a lot of money just to bring in the money. I have to feel that I'm passionate about it. I have to feel that it's absolutely making a difference for me or making a difference for other people, right? So I would say, and I feel like that applies to everybody. I mean, if you have a certain level of passion, I mean, you're making money, sure, that's fine. That could be a passion. But I mean, I feel like if you have that passion, you can link the two together and get both financial goals and the other thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So like, as far as you say, have two different goals, I mean, if you can have, I would say if you could see the e-commerce in the music industry, I'm pretty sure you could find a way to link the two, right? Or something like that. But I would say you can have two, but I would say if there's one that you're a lot more passionate at, I would make that the main goal, right? And then the other one as a sub goal. And then your finance could be tied to that passion too. It doesn't say like, oh, you know, let's say, for example, like if someone that's creating Instagram, and you say that shit is just like garbage, right? But like these people, 10 people came together, they raised money, right? Because you say your finances can bring that up, but what if you raise money for your passion, right? You get investors or something like that. You find people that are expert in raising money, and you surround yourselves with those people, and then bam, bam, bam. All of a sudden, your passion has a bunch of finance, you have investors investing in you and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, you have a bunch of money to work with. You look at a company like Instagram, obviously, like, they had, for 10 years, they didn't have any revenue, but they had investors, right? And bam, they got bought by Instagram for $1 billion. I mean, they got bought by Facebook for $1 billion. And all that came is from like, you know, a little idea, right? So I guess I wouldn't discount that. I would say you could tie both of them. You could say financial and that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely good advice.
Okay. All right. So yeah, definitely. To recap that part, I would just say, guys, if you guys have two goals, if there's one that you're more passionate about, I would go with that, right? We want to make sure we stick to our passions, and passions can change from your lifetime, right? It doesn't have to be forever, but like you do want to focus on one main thing and have that be the main focus that you have, and just let's focus on, right? Bam, this is my passion, and that's what I'm gonna and make sure it's your passion. Maybe it's not just in the moment you're getting hyped to do something. You kind of you can look through your experience in the past, you know, what has been your passion. So for me, learning has been always a passion. Teaching others has been always a passion for mine. And as I look back, I've always been someone that I like to teach people. I've always liked to be people that teach people, something like that, right? So definitely, guys, I wanna make sure we focus on that. And so and like you said, focus on one goal. Focus on one goal and make one the one that you're focused on, the main goal. That, because like our brain can't focus on so many things at one time, right? Our brain is like, you know, we had that, you know, you guys have heard of the reticular activating system. When we buy a car, we start seeing it everywhere. If we focus on one goal, it's like your brain is gonna be like zoning in like a missile, right? It's gonna be like, bam, this is what it is, and then you're gonna attract all the people to your life that's gonna help you do that. But if you're like, okay, I have this going, I have this, or your reticular activating system is like, okay, it's like focusing on two different things. You want to have like an overarching thing, right? And then you have other sub goals, of course. We're just gonna have one goal in your life, but make it one goal that maybe you're focusing a lot of your time on, right? You're focusing to build that fire. So anyway, to have that fire burn inside of us, guys, you know, we talked a couple of different things. We can have that fire burn to get that leverage inside of ourselves. If you're going to do a daily major purpose statement, say it every day, right? But if you're not going to say it every day, bam, you got to have that why. You have to sit down, have that why, emotionalize it, and look at it and read it. And if you're not going to say it, read it every day, because that why is going to keep you juiced. That why is going to keep you going. That why is going to light that fire and say, you know what, bam, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. And this is where I'm going, right? And so, you know, and Napoleon Hill keeps referring back to it. It's like the first time I read Think Grow Rich, I was like, okay, yeah, what the hell is a daily major purpose statement? So anyway, he refers back to it again in this chapter, like at least 3 or 4 times. Like, for example, he says this at one point in the chapter. He says, continue to read through to the end of chapter 9, right? Then go back to chapter 2 and start to immediately carry out the instructions given. So he's like, this is something that he definitely refers to a lot during this chapter, right? And so having said that, make sure we focus in, we hone in on that. We make sure we hone in on the leverage. We get our leverage on ourselves. We say that, you know, we we incorporate, you know, the right people into our life. We incorporate the right mastermind. We incorporate that stuff. We add those, the way to add to get focused in on the goals that we have, right? Make sure you write them out, and the why needs to be there. You know, we want to make sure if we have a vision board, have those things. If you want to do the money clip thing, get a money clip with $300 bills. It's a good way to focus in and say, you know what, I'm attracting this abundance, this financial abundance in my life. I'm attracting this into my life, right? I'm going to make it happen, and nothing else is going to deter me, right? Nothing else is going to stop me from doing it. And just make sure we have it like that, right? And as we go through these things, we find, you know, we find the people that have had most success, right, are the people that have persistence. We talked about before, Walt Disney, you know, how, you know, the persistence he had to go through to make it happen. You know, he got turned down by how many banks? More than 100 banks that's on the process to creating his dream lifestyle, right? His dream has come true, you know, with Walt Disney, you know, TV and the theme parks, right? And so all these little things come from that. And remembering the thing that these people all have in common that they don't mention directly, they all mention indirectly. Even Oprah Winfrey doesn't mention it directly. None of these people mention this directly. You have to kind of like, it's kind of like the Think and Grow Rich book. It talks about, you know, okay, you're going to find it in some chapter, The Secret, right? And then you kind of have to kind of find it. And it's the same thing with a lot of these success stories. They don't outright tell you it, but one huge ingredient that they all have is some point in their life that has something bad happen to them. And they don't say, and by the way, I sat down and I decided I was going to make the most empowering decision. I was going to make the most empowering meaning. They just tell you what they did, decisions they made, right? So we have to look at that and say, okay, what the big difference maker is for the persistence for people is when they have those disappointments, when they have those failures, bam, they step into overdrive on how to make that the most empowering thing that's ever happened for them in their life. And that's the difference maker. That's what's going to make a difference for all of us. That's what's going to make the difference as we move forward, right? So having said that, that's definitely that's definitely a huge thing that's made a big difference in my life. You know, my relationship, my health, you know, my finances, you know, every little thing, my emotional fitness is looking at that, getting to those points of failure. You know, we all have those failures, but we don't know about the failures that the people have experienced. You know, we don't know about all the doors that have been knocked on. You know, we don't know the humiliation and disappointment and this lack of self-esteem we had at one time or something like that. We don't know about, you know, the failed attempts. We don't know about the embarrassment that's been experienced along the way that no one talks about, right? And so the bottom line, it comes down to having to saying, bam, that happens, and then we make that empowering meaning come to life, right? So with that, I don't know if there's anybody that would like to add in anything extra on here in regards to persistence. I'll just say, you know, the leaders have to find out. Us all as leaders being on this call, you know, you guys say, okay, I'm gonna take some time to learn about what it is that I want to improve in my life. I want to take some time to learn and to make that 2 millimeter difference in my life. One little idea, one little shift in our mindset, bam, and take that into overdrive is all it takes, right? One little idea, one little seed that's planted in your mind is all it takes, you know, like having you guys come together, you know, is like it came from a little seed of a conversation that I had more than a year and a half ago with someone that talked about surrounding themselves with their peer group, with positive people in their life, and surrounding themselves with people that are going in the same path as you, you know. And so that idea brought me to, you know, creating this group. And so one little seed, if you guys will get a little seed and you're like, bam, you know, that's so true. Let me do this, and I'm gonna apply this in my life. That little idea, I like that. Or maybe I'm not gonna use it, but maybe I'm gonna tell this person about it, right? So I'm gonna open up the line for, I think Tim had mentioned he's gonna add something on here. Let me see here. Okay, Tim, I muted you. I think you were gonna add on something.
Yeah, what Grant was talking about, is it okay to have two major goals? You know, in the long run, if you look at Andrew Carnegie, he said, I'm going to spend my entire first half of my life building my fortunes. I'm going to spend the entire second half of my life enjoying giving away my fortune. So he had a very long-term time frame, in terms of his persistence. For a lot of us, we need to break it down to goals in certain areas of our life. A lot of wellness coaches are going to say, what makes you happy, what makes you healthy, what makes you wealthy. For myself, I break it down into 3 parts, is that I regularly review and work on my goals in terms of my relationships, my health, and my wealth, in that order. Other people that work on goals, if it's a more detailed workshop, you can have goals in 6 or 7 areas of your life. It might be career, it might be your long-term retirement or financial plan, it might be your family relationships, it might be your spiritual well-being, it might be your physical and your nutrition and exercise, etc. So you can break it down and get it as detailed as you want, or you can try and find somewhere in the middle and say, here's 3 areas. That seems to work well for me. I don't have the long-term time frame persistence that Andrew Carnegie had, so I got to find some middle ground. Thank you, and thank everyone for this call. I got a lot out of it.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Definitely. What would you say, Tim, is the benefit of doing a goal like that? And like he said, 20, 25 years, first half of my life, and then the second half of my life. What would you say is the benefit of doing a long-range goal like that?
Well, for him, it worked out very well. He was one of the wealthiest men in the last century, but also look at the great works that he's done. The entire library system in the United States can be traced back to the efforts of Andrew Carnegie. That's just one thing that he's done.
Right, exactly. All right, awesome. Thanks for sharing, Tim. Thanks for sharing, everybody. I guess with that, we'll end the call. And like I said, you know, I'm glad you guys take the time to come here and learn. You guys, you know, I know, like Tim just said, you got a huge benefit from it. One little idea is all it takes, and for someone to get on a call like this, it shows, you know, bam, I'm here to learn. I'm here to grow. I know that one little thing is all it takes to improve my life. One little thing is all it takes for me that seed to be planted, right? That seed that's gonna grow into another thing. That's gonna grow into the next level. That's gonna allow me to grow. It's gonna allow me to impact other lives. It's gonna allow me to improve my family, improve my finances, right? One little question, it makes a huge difference, right? So I want to thank you guys, everybody, for making on this call, and I hope you guys got a lot out of this call. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, all right? All right, guys. So take care. I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, all right?
Don't forget to laugh.
All right, guys. Take care, all right? You guys have been awesome today.